It's Monday. Hey everybody, it's another week, another you. Hope you didn't eat too much this weekend. It was daylight savings yesterday and we lost an hour. My body is wondering, what the heck are you doing up so early today? Sounds like Tom Brady will be back in Tampa Bay in case you missed it. However, I doubt it. It was everywhere. We got a lot going on. Talk of recession, getting rid of concealed carry permits, execution, United Airlines, Trump and DeSantis. We have a lot this Monday. So our first story in the Rooney bin, a video shows U.S. military near the Ukraine border. The U.S. military was seen 10 miles off the Ukraine border in Poland on March 11th, 2022. In on-the-ground footage captured by the Epoch Times and its sister media NTD. Still not sure how I feel about the Epoch Times, but the New York Times and several others have reported this as well, saying up to 3,000 troops have been spotted. More to come this week, I am sure. What do you know? Trump's back in the news. Russia's war on Ukraine is testing former President Donald Trump's sway with Republican officials. Most of them are treating him the way he's treating Russian autocrat Vladimir Putin, seeking distance but refusing to condemn him. While Trump inched closer to criticizing Putin's invasion of Ukraine Saturday night, he continued to portray the Russian leader in a positive light, and it happens to be a man that is just driven. He's driven to put it together, Trump said at a political rally in South Carolina. I didn't watch, so I don't want to get caught up in others' opinions when it comes to the Donald. He's an interesting character, and there's tons of sound bites going around, tons of quotes, and I have no doubt a lot of them are being taken out of context. I really want to try avoiding taking things out of context on this show, but obviously this is opinion analysis and I have opinions. I will say that I don't like him praising Putin even a little bit. I wish he wouldn't, and I think he should just shut up now when it comes to that. Trump's policies are one thing and his personality is another. I don't believe gas prices would be as high if Trump were in office, but at the same time, I hate his rallies because he always says something stupid like praising Putin, or Trump is trending on Twitter right now for saying he'll pass critical reforms, making every executive branch employee fireable by the president of the United States, that's getting a ton of attention. Whether you like him or not, folks, make no mistake, this is a power grab. Even if it seems like a good thing in the moment or at times, it ultimately is not. Remember, that gets passed down to the next president as well. I'm not sure about more executive powers to any one person. We have another Florida guy in Ron DeSantis making moves. It warrants our attention, and yet again, here he comes. Florida passes the nation's first law restricting how employers talk about race at work. Here's an article by Jessica Gunn, USA Today. This was from Thursday, March 10th, and it didn't come out until 9 p.m., so you probably missed it. She said, Legislation restricting how race is discussed in the workplace was approved by Florida lawmakers and sent to Governor Ron DeSantis, paving the way for the first law of its kind in the country. The measure takes aim at any corporate training that makes employees feel discomfort or distress by suggesting that they are responsible for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, sex, or national origin. It is part of a national-wide push to control how issues of race and identity are taught in corporations. So this is a really tough subject for me. Being the worker bee that I am, this is a subject at this time I'm not going to dive too deep into. I will say eventually I will have a website, the J. Rooney Project, which will be for subscribers only, and I will dive deeper into certain topics like this once that's up. So make sure you're following along, paying attention, subscribe to this channel so you can find out when that happens. We are a ways off, so I just want to be upfront about that, but eventually I will have members only content for you. But having said that, I don't believe corporations have any place in our society to teach us anything other than business, and I find some of these trends to be really alarming. Corporations are nothing but socially irresponsible because that's not their responsibility. So don't forget America. You're allowed to be whoever you want in America and believe in whatever you want. As long as you're not harming anyone, I say, do you. United is cutting 29 cities this summer indefinitely because its partnership with SkyWest Airlines doesn't have enough pilots to fly the routes. What you need to know? United Airlines contractor SkyWest Airlines gave a 90-day notice to the Department of Transportation on Thursday that is exiting 29 airports. The airports are all part of the federal Essential Air Service program, which ensures small communities have a carrier. The DOT could implement a hold-in order that would force SkyWest to stay until a replacement airline is found. As a result of an ongoing pilot staffing imbalance across the industry, SkyWest expects to discontinue service in several markets beginning this summer, the carrier told Insider. If inflation gets as bad as some are saying, I wonder which airline is next. I feel like the airlines have gone through a lot since the pandemic started. The state-run Saudi press agency announced Saturday's executions, saying they included those convicted of various crimes, including murdering of innocent men, women, and children. If you haven't heard this, Saudi Arabia on Saturday executed 81 people convicted of crimes ranging from killing to belonging to military groups, the largest known mass execution carried out by the kingdom in its modern history. The number of executed folks surpassed even the toll of January 1980's mass execution for the 63 militants convicted of seizing the Grand Mosque in Mecca, and that happened in 1979, and that was the worst ever military attack to target the Kingdom of Islam's holiest site. It wasn't clear why the kingdom chose Saturday for the executions, though. They came as much of the world's attention remained focused on Russia's war, Ukraine, and as the U.S. hopes to lower record-high gasoline prices as energy prices spike worldwide. And on top of that, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is reportedly has plans that he has a trip to Saudi Arabia this week over oil prices as well. So it seems like a time thing for sure. And it seems like, the Saudi prince has been in the news a lot, and he's going to play this and milk this situation for all that it's worth. And I just am under the impression that I'm not really sure he can be trusted. I think we should tread water carefully with him. I think we always should have. I think there's a lot of history there, or at least recent history in my lifetime, that suggests that we should be careful, but also keep an eye on them. Sometimes it's better to keep your friends close, it's better to keep your enemies closer than your friends. The kingdom also said some of those executed were members of Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group, and some of them were also backers of Yemen's Houthi rebels. According to this article, each person had a lawyer and a trial. So apparently they were all given a trial and were all able to plead their case, but they were all found guilty. The Saudi prince stands by his decisions. Now, it looks like peace talks between Saudi Arabia and Iran are off the table because of the result of this. So will that lead to a bigger conflict? I don't know. With what's already going on between Russia and Ukraine, is there potential for a second conflict or even a third between us and China? Perhaps, I've been trying to avoid the whole World War III thing, but there's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle, and if some of them fall in the right place, it's really hard to predict right now. Recession, per Yahoo Finance. First, crude oil prices traded around $112 a barrel Friday as traders continue to digest Biden's administration's ban of imports on Russian oil, liquefied natural gas, and coal in response to the country's war on Ukraine. Some on the street have warned oil prices could surge as high as $200 a barrel. In fact, I've actually heard people throwing around numbers as high as 300. So I think it depends who you're listening to, and some people will say crazy things, right? Like, I want you to keep listening to this show. I have to say things every now and then to keep your attention, right? But according to what I'm hearing 200. Prices are off of their highs of nearly $139 a barrel on optimism U.S. Oil majors such as Exxon and Chevron. And they're saying that they're going to produce more to try to make up for the lost Russian output. Oil prices have surged roughly about 23% since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And I heard last week that we actually haven't even felt the impacts of the Russian oil. So it sounds like that number is only going to continue to go up. And meanwhile, prices at the U.S. gas pumps have already skyrocketed above 4 gallons on average, and they're already above 5 in California. With all that in mind, here's what some top minds in business have said about the odds for a U.S. recession. So Jan Hayes, chief economist at Goldman Sachs, said, "We now see the risk that the U.S. enters a recession during the next year as broadly in line with the 20 to 35% odds currently implied by models based on the slope of the yield curve. So Brad Jacobs, CEO of XPO Logistics, had to say, "I have seen few recessions over my career, and they aren't fun." Jacobs said on Yahoo Finance Live, "I don't know that we are close to a recession. Right now, the consumer is very, very strong, and the industrial economy is in its early beginnings of growth. We do have to watch the effect of the European war and how that affects the world economy. We do have to look at how oil prices affect the world. And we do have to see how the Fed lands the plane in terms of raising interest rates in a careful way. But we are not close to a recession. Absent some big geopolitical jolt, there is too much strength in the economy right now." I don't know. I have a feeling maybe half the country feels this optimistic. I have a feeling Brad Jacobs makes more than most people and might see things a little different. Let's see what Ethan Harris from the Bank of America Global Economist had to say about this. He says, "We will get a lot more worried if we see two kinds of developments. First, under our pessimistic scenario with a major cutoff of Russian energy, we could see oil market prices spiking to $175 a barrel and averaging $130 a barrel for the year. Second, if inflation stays too high for too long, central banks could get serious about fighting inflation. At this stage, it looks like both the Fed and the ECB will hike rates closer to neutral, but will not move significantly into the tight territory, combining a major oil shock with serious policy tightening that would imply a serious risk of recession." Harris penned in a new client note, "I personally remain positive skeptical, meaning we could easily avoid a recession, but I could also see us fall into one. I think those we just heard from have a different vantage point and definitely see things differently than some schmuck like me. So I'll remain positive until I have legit reason to think otherwise." In other news, Alabama Excuse me, man, having a tough day. It is Monday today, and you know what? I don't have time to retake this show, so I'm just working through this. I hope you don't mind, and if you can help me out, please don't forget to like this and subscribe to this channel. That way, the more subscribers I get, the more time I'll be able to put in this ultimately, and the more I'll be able to invest in this, and the better quality shows I'll be able to produce for you. So, in other news, Alabama joins Georgia, along with 20 other states, in getting rid of concealed carry permits. Alabama residents will no longer be required to hold a permit to conceal and carry a handgun in the state after Governor Kay Ivey on Thursday signed a bill affecting the change into law. The bill, which was passed along party lines with majority Republican support and Democratic opposition, takes effect in January of next year, according to a press release from the governor's office. Ivey said she was defending the Second Amendment rights in her state. Unlike most states who are doing everything in their power to make it harder for law-abiding citizens, Alabama is reaffirming their commitment to defending our Second Amendment rights, the governor said in a statement. So I'm all for this. For the most part, I think we need to tread, and be cautious, but I think we need to do this and see how it works out. I'm of the belief that this could make for a safer community, but I also could be wrong. As they mentioned, 20 other states have done this and we haven't seen much about it. I believe someone does have the right to defend themselves and to defend their homes. We'll just have to see if this becomes a big deal. Of course, the article had to throw in that there was Democratic opposition. I'm also under the belief that Democratic opposition only comes from the elites. It only comes from the wealthy. It only comes from like your activist, social justice type warriors and really wealthy, like corporate elite politician types. Like I said, the elites. So the reason why is because all the Democrats I know are gun owners, and all the Democrats I know seem to be okay with violence more than Republicans, more than other folks I know, and all the Democrats I know seem to support getting rid of concealed carry laws. So don't let people fool you when they say, Democrats want to take away your guns. It's the elites that want to take away your guns. Remember how everybody either lost or quit their job within the last couple years? The Wall Street Journal. COVID-19 taught Americans how to let go of their steady paychecks. During the COVID-19 pandemic, millions of Americans quit their jobs. Some retired early. Many also became part of a growing flexible force in the American economy. Workers who gave up a steady paycheck to become freelancers, solo operators, contract gig workers, and day traders. The number of unincorporated self-employed people in the U.S. reached 10 million in February, or 400,000 more than when the pandemic began. So that's a lot of people. According to the Labor Department, it soared as high as 10.3 million last summer. Those who are willing to give up the security of a paycheck say there are risks and rewards and certain strategies that work best. They get to pursue their passions, work the hours they want, and improve the quality of life. They can do so, they say, because of their heftier savings accumulated during the pandemic and a hot hiring market that could act as a cushion if their solo paths don't work out. So I don't know about that, but some may find their savings aren't quite as substantial following a period of market turmoil that started earlier this year and accelerated with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Rising inflation is also eating away at cushions amassed since 2020, and the freelance life can make it more difficult to get a mortgage because of heightened scrutiny from lenders. Giving up a steady paycheck may no longer seem as financially attractive as it once did. So there's really a lot here to unpack. I think, yeah, it's definitely risky to do that, and I would definitely advise with caution if you're considering making that move. I think if you can pursue your passions and pursue other interests in life while keeping a full-time job, I know that's what I've done, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. I also think that a lot of the wrong people got money during the pandemic, which this is evident. I remember friends of mine who was not hurting. I have several friends of mine who have kids who are not hurting financially at all, who were just banking on all this money from the pandemic, when people like me who were really struggling during the pandemic, I didn't get any pandemic money, and neither did my father, who also took a lot of hard hits, who actually lost his job because of the pandemic and also has some health issues now, and he can't return to work. He never got anything. So I have a lot of questions about the COVID money and where it went, who got what. I think it seems really messed up to me, and the fact that so many people made so much money off of it that they were able to quit their jobs and they still have enough saved up that they don't have to go back to work. I don't know, that just kind of rubs me the wrong way, and is honestly making me think completely different about social programs in our country. In fact, I used to believe healthcare was a right going into the pandemic. I no longer feel that way. I feel like a basic healthcare plan should be provided by the government, but that's the extent of how I feel about that now. I think the government has proved to us that they do not have the moral fortitude, the responsibility, the know-how, the bandwidth. They literally could never handle healthcare. They just couldn't. Like a lot of Americans, I had a lot of time to reflect during the pandemic. Newfound sense of self, time to really relax and figure out what was important and what I needed to do to get there. I contemplated a lot of different scenarios, and ultimately for me, I realized I could do both, pursue passions and keep my job. I have a nice job that I can't complain too much about, so I am lucky, and I'm really motivated now that I know what I'm doing with my life. I'm 35 with a lot of energy still, so I'm working really hard. I don't feel burnt out, and I take time when I need it. I know what parts of the day I'm most productive and take advantage. My routine allows me to be efficient, and my diet and exercise allows me to keep focus and stay on task throughout the day. I don't hear a lot of people say things come easy without hard work, even though our society today might tell you something about hard work. I like keeping an eye on the job market. It's fun and it's interesting. It's always changing. Let's see what Marcus Aurelius has to say today. He says, "On pain, unbearable pain carries us off. Chronic pain can be borne. The mind preserves its own serenity by withdrawal. And the directing reason is not impaired by pain. It is for the parts injured by the pain to protest if they can." Have a healthy day, everybody. Get a walk in. Make sure you work out. Eat right. Jay Rooney Show.